Welcome to Between the Covers, the show for readers. The show for readers and writers and lovers of books. I'm Stephanie Larkin, an author, book publisher, developer, and coach, and head penguin at Red Penguin Books. We're a publishing company of books of all genres and types. So if you have a book inside of you just waiting to get out, or maybe a manuscript shoved in a drawer for 10 years, kind of like Margaret Mitchell in Gone with the Wind, unleash your inner author and call me at redpenguinbooks.com. I am so thrilled to have with me today 3 authors who managed to unleash their inner author. So please welcome authors Nicole Christensen, Melissa Rausch, and Jacqueline Gray. Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Well, now that you are official Between the Covers members, we have membership cards and everything. If you pass that to Jack and Nicole and Melissa. By being a card-carrying member of the Between the Covers Club, you can come any Wednesday night and have wine. How's that?
Sounds great.
Absolutely.
I like this membership.
And Between the Covers is an online book club also that you can just go to betweenthecoverstv.com, get on our mailing list, and we'll be sending you free digital books and events and opportunities, not to mention all sorts of information and links about our authors. So make sure to join us at Between the Covers. So thank you so much for coming. I'm so glad you came. So besides writing, do you like to read also?
I do.
Well, thank God, because I sometimes ask that question and people are like, who has time to read? Nicole, what are you reading lately?
Well, I am reading Rules for Visiting.
Rules for visiting?
Yes.
Are there rules for visiting?
Well, I'm halfway through it, but
Did you learn the rules?
I learned what rules they were talking about. I don't say to follow any of them, but it's really a great book about friendship, actually, and going to visit friends and what that means and what state of their lives that they're in and what you're in and how meaningful friendships are.
I love that, and I love what I'm reading at the top of your book. It's from the Freeport Memorial Library.
Yes, it is. Go
Shout
public
out from the
libraries.
libraries. Absolutely. I'm going to be visiting a couple of libraries in the next few weeks, doing author talks and workshops on publishing and writing. And yes, go libraries. Our libraries on Long Island are alive and well.
Yep.
Absolutely.
And amazing.
Yeah,
and
they're
amazing. Absolutely amazing. They have so much stuff now.
And for every age group.
Yeah,
Every age
and
group,
so many
they cater to the entire
activities.
community. It's wonderful.
And as far as I'm concerned, librarians are like the smartest people.
They are.
They know everything.
They are. And they get you, right? Like you go in and you're like, this is what I feel like. And they help you find it.
I am so thrilled when we have librarians on the show. We have some who are authors and librarians. And I'm like, we'll just worship right there. Boy, you're just way ahead of me.
Exactly.
Melissa, what are you reading?
Well, since we have a lovely Halloween theme,
Ooh.
Neil Gaiman's The Graveyard Book.
Ooh.
I got into Neil rather recently. Everyone's been talking about this amazing author, and I finally got a chance to read his book.
I haven't read yet. Really?
It is really amazing,
Oh,
and
wow.
especially for this time of year, it's a perfect, book to kind of just like,
Do I
get
turn
a nice
off
cup
the
of
lights
tea,
and
turn
light
off
a-
the lights, set the mood, and you follow Bod, whose family was murdered, and when he was a baby, and how he gets rescued by the spirit world in a graveyard, and he's the only one who could see them, and now how they're going to help protect him from this murderer who's still out there, who's looking to still finish what he started. So definitely check it out. I have
Halloween
other books
is tomorrow. You can grab a copy. That's how I read Edgar Allan Poe when I was younger. It was like Halloween night, light a candle, read the Telltale Heart.
Oh my goodness. That's too scary.
I
I know.
Turning the lights on.
You would not. You write creepy too. You absolutely
Edgar Allan
do.
Poe's a little
Too creepy for you even? Okay, I can't believe it. I can't believe it. What do you have to recommend for us, Jack?
I actually have a collection of fairy tales by Libor Dugo, which
Ooh.
was amazing.
Oh my gosh! I've heard about this. I have heard and I haven't read. Really?
One thing that I love about that book actually is it's very much like fairy tales, and it has elements that you'll like recognize, with Cinderella or Sleeping Beauty and stuff, and you'll recognize where it might have originated from, but it's completely her own take. And the other thing that's cool about that, if you open it up and flip through a couple of pages, is it's illustrated so that as you read, the frame fills in and accompanies the story.
Oh my God.
And then by the end, it becomes a picture that basically matches the story.
Oh, this is
But
gorgeous.
it's cool because you also you don't expect it. The Cinderella story, you'll start with a pumpkin and a vine and everything, but by the end, it's not the Cinderella you knew.
Oh, I see. Look,
Very,
it starts
cool.
with. Look at it. I could treat it like a flip book.
Yeah.
Look at that. Oh, what a
beautiful.
beautiful book.
I really enjoyed reading
I'm going to
that
have
one.
to buy this. I specifically have a son who will just go crazy for this. Look at that. A flip book. I'm loving this. I'm stealing that. What else do you have there?
The other thing I've been reading lately, I've been on a fairy tale kick. And one of my favorite authors, Heidi Cullinan, wrote a fairy tale romance also. And it kind of connects the world of the Fae with ours. And it's definitely more of a Fae type fairy tale.
Right.
And the main character, Miles, gets pulled into this land, and he's getting haunted by two people, and he's basically keeps getting pulled back in, and he has to find a way to either escape or but figure out who is really the good guy and who's really the bad guy, and the whole
Sounds like a theme I've read recently.
what are you talking about?
I have no idea what you're
Fantastic. Well, we're going to meet our authors in just a moment after this commercial break. Thanks for joining us.
Writing a book is the adventure of a lifetime. Red Penguin Books take pride in giving our authors a publishing experience that is stress-free and celebratory all the way. Some of our authors first approach us with no more than an idea for a book that's ready to sprout. Others submit completed manuscripts. Whether you're at either end or anywhere in between, our goal is to get you published. At Red Penguin Books, we offer options and opportunities in the world of publishing, and all of them are designed to keep you, the author we so deeply respect, in the driver's seat, unlike other publishing houses. So, if you want to write a book and are looking for a publisher, we've got you covered. Red Penguin Books deal in publishing services, book development, and ghostwriting for digital, print, and audiobook. Call us at 516-448-4993 or visit our website www.redpenguinbooks.com.
That's right, keep it going. 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 Twilly dilly dee, twilly dilly dee, twilly dilly dee, twilly dilly dee, tweet, 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 tweet.
She talks to the people all night long, chatting and a gabbing and a singing her song. All the divas down on Rainbow Street love to hear Tony go tweet, tweet, tweet. Talking Tony,
Tweet, tweet,
talk, talking Tony.
tweet, twilly dee.
Oh, talking Tony gonna talk tonight.
Welcome back to Between the Covers. Thank you so much for joining us. Well, while we were on a commercial break, we were popping champagne because we have a new author to celebrate. Nicole Christensen just released From Crisis to Calm, and her book was just #1 in healthcare on Amazon, so I think we need some champagne. Woo! congratulations on the new book.
Thank you very much.
It's very
Thank you.
funny. I titled this episode, like a scary good time, thinking of your 2 books. And then we had Nicole, and I was like, yeah, well, your topic is pretty damn frightening. In my office, they were like, do you think that fits? And I'm like, oh, yes, it does. It totally fits. Well, let's first toast to the new book. And to success for all of our authors.
Thank you. Cheers to all of you.
If you want to release a book on our show, we'll chill the champagne.
Exactly. It's already chilling for you.
So from crisis to calm, a patient advocate's take on healthcare coordination for you, the common caregiver. I'm terrified already.
It can be somewhat terrifying, but again, it's to give you calm. So there's just a lot of folks just don't know what to do when they're a caregiver. It's very difficult.
Well, I love the way you start the book by mentioning the fact that at some point either you have been a caregiver, it was Rosalind Carter's quote, you were a caregiver, you will be a caregiver, you had a caregiver, you
are a caregiver.
You are a caregiver. However it comes out, caregiver, oh, here it is. There are only 4 kinds of people in the world. Those who have been caregivers, those who are currently caregivers, those who will be caregivers, and those who will need caregivers. So this book is for everybody.
Yes, indeed it is. Even the statistics, because people don't call themselves caregivers, they
call
give
themselves
so much.
exhausted.
Yes, they call themselves exhausted, and they're just doing their part or doing what they need to do. But it takes a toll, and 2 out of 3 workers are giving care to an adult loved one. So
they're working all day long.
correct.
And
They're
coming
working all day
home
long
to-
and having to figure out how to provide the best care for those they love.
Right.
So it's a difficult time, and I wrote it for the solution, and again to give calm to the caregiver, because it's a very difficult time, and it just has some straight up facts, easy to read, so that you can be there and take care of yourself as well as take care of whoever you're providing that care for.
Well, I love that focus on taking care of yourself. That's so important because, in the airplane when they tell you with the oxygen mask, put your oxygen mask on first before you put it on a child. If you're lying there dead, folks.
You can't help anybody.
Right.
You can't help anybody. And that's a really important thing that most people don't listen to. They know it,
Right.
but they don't do it. But there's so many people counting on all of us, and if we don't take care of ourselves, we won't be able to do it.
Now
that's
you're
why I
a
wrote it.
patient care
I'm a patient advocate.
patient
board-certified
advocate.
Patient advocate.
What does that mean?
What does that mean?
Tell us,
Well,
please.
I will. So it means that I navigate people through the healthcare system. I personally, as a patient advocate, or my business, Care Answered, as patient advocates, we kind of focus on transitions. When somebody is diagnosed with a catastrophic or chronic illness, when somebody is going into the hospital, or they have declining health, or they're transitioning from hospital to rehab home, into assisted living, into a nursing home, all of those transition phases are also when kind of the bad stuff tends to happen. Because in between all those phases, there's a lack of communication and coordination. And so people miss out on the options that they truly have. And when you are the patient or their loved one, it gets very fuzzy and hazy, even if you would know it. It's your emotions.
Right.
So being a private patient advocate, I'm there to kind of move all that mist about and make it a clear view for you so that you know all of your options, and then I help get you there.
Wow. One of the things I so appreciated when I was reading your book are the checklists. Pages and pages of questions and checklists to keep all of your information in one place. And then the questions made so much sense. I mean, I look in my medicine cabinet and I have things that I have no idea why they're there. Now, fortunately, I just, throw them away or whatever.
Right.
But if I were a caregiver, I can't even imagine trying to remember all that stuff.
Yeah, it's so important because so often we make medication mistakes ourselves,
Yes.
as well as pharmacists do
Oh,
it.
and the hospital, isn't that like the worst thing to do in the hospital?
Yeah, so it's so important to keep track of. I had this one woman come up to me when I was doing a presentation, and she said, you know, I'm a caregiver for, I think she said her mother, and she's the, you know, caregiver for her husband, who's well, but, you know, she just keeps track of his stuff. And then she went into the hospital, and she had nothing because there was no caregiver for her.
Right.
So she wasn't able to articulate, and nobody else had that information. So it's very important, again, as a caregiver, you need to make sure that somebody else is taking care of you. So you have a list of medications, you make sure it's current, you make sure that your healthcare proxy, your healthcare agent, if you don't have one, go
So
get
important.
one.
All those things.
Or all those things. Or a loved one or spouse has that information handy, because if you're doing everything, it's not like you're immune to something happening to you. Even if it's hopefully just a brief moment, somebody needs to have that information.
And the older we get, we're sitting here on the couch with two young girls who are like, this is never going to happen to us. It's going to happen to you.
More champagne.
More champagne.
That's why I said, this is the scary book, folks. Of all the things we're going to talk about tonight, this is the scary book over
Unfortunately.
here.
But it doesn't have to be that scary. And even for younger people, for example, at 18 years old, you should have a healthcare proxy. So
Do you have a healthcare proxy?
I was about to say, I do not have a health
I don't
proxy at
either, and I'm a lot more than 18 years old, okay?
because
Nicole
a
will
lot
be
of,
handing it
I'll
out.
be handing them out at the end of the show. I'll be your
It's a
witness.
goodie bag. It's a
as
goodie
well.
bag.
Yeah, exactly. Trick or treat. Here you go.
Maybe tomorrow when people go trick-or-treating, she's like, have a healthcare proxy. Have a
Like
healthcare
dentist gives out toothbrushes and everybody's like, great.
I would love to see some little 6-year-olds. Don't you have any candy, Miss?
Well, instead you hand the
Healthcare
candy to the kid and the proxy
Yeah,
to the
exactly.
adult.
To the adult. You're like, this is for
I want to go to
you.
your house. I want to see what this could be very interesting.
I think I'll do it.
I would love to see that. I will
might
find
get more
somebody to go
clients
trick-or-treating with
like
to see
that.
that.
Oh, I know.
Could you imagine?
Like, yeah,
They'll write
like,
you-
tell Amber to go to her house.
They're going to write you
We're
up in
going now.
Newsday. There's this new up-and-coming star. Nicole Christensen all of a sudden has like a waiting list for her services because she was giving out free healthcare proxies.
proxies. Here you go.
Halloween. You think you're scared now? If you forget to sign this, you'll really be scared.
Trick. Yeah. But because
So by 18?
Yes, by 18, because what I say 18 because you're considered an adult, right? And so there's a
Surprise.
lot of nightmare stories of young people going to college in a different state or a different area, and their parents getting a call from the school sometimes saying that they're in the hospital. They call to get information on their child, and they will not give it.
Right.
They will not give it. So, because of the health privacy, commonly
Okay, now you have me
known
in a
as
panic
HIPAA.
because I have a daughter in school
Yes,
in London.
Yes, you
And
should
she,
get the.
she
Well,
suddenly
London
had
has
this
probably
weird,
different
She suddenly had
rules.
this weird rash, and she sent me a picture of it, and I was like, well, don't go to a doctor. like I'm terrified. What would happen? I have no idea.
I don't know. No, I think actually they might be more lenient in
Yes.
London.
I told her to go to a
but-
college doctor, figuring they're used to international students. Like, don't go to a local British doctor. Like, I don't know.
We took off her arm. Thank you. No. But yeah, so those kinds of things, because things can happen, accidents can happen.
They can.
And you just, you're just unconscious for a little bit. Nobody has any of your information.
Don't do that.
Don't
folks.
do that.
Don't do that.
Don't do that. Stay healthy. That's the whole book. It just says stay healthy.
Yeah.
No, I'm just kidding.
But if you don't, there's lots of blanks to fill in.
Yeah, so it's a very easy guide to help people and make it not as daunting, and know that there's help out there.
No, it's true. It goes through from piece to piece, from what to do at a doctor's visit, which I loved, because how many times do you walk out of a doctor, never mind being a caregiver, for yourself, and you walk out and you say, what did he just say?
Exactly. I get those stories a lot. That you go home and then your spouse or loved one or friend is like, so what happened? And they're like, I don't really
no idea.
know. I left. I was there. They spoke. I left. Or I have a test. All I know is that I don't eat. What's the test for? Don't know. You know,
Exactly.
these are the things that happen, and so
But so much worse when you're responsible for somebody.
exactly. Or if it's something that needs more questions, people don't feel comfortable asking questions. They want to get out of there. Whatever the reason is, there's something called white coat syndrome, where wherever the
It's true.
clinician
It's
says
true.
is gospel, and people don't say anything, and it's not a conversation. So hopefully these are tools to make it a conversation, because you are the most important. The patient is the most important member of the care team.
I like this. The 3 big questions. If you forget everything else, what is my main problem? What do I need to do? And why is that important to me?
Right.
That's
exactly.
critical.
It's true.
That's
because
so critical.
If you go in there with a whole bunch of things and you were like, I don't know exactly what happened here, just get to the point. What's the
biggie here?
What's the main issue? Okay, what do I have to do? And then why do I have to do it?
Right. Why is that important?
Why is it important to me? Is it gonna, because people come home and they say, you know, I don't think, you know, I'll wait 3 months. They never heard the fact that they have to get it done this week, you know,
Right.
and so it points that out so that people can
Absolutely.
stay focused.
No, you're right. We go in and we have no idea what they say, and then you're dealing with someone else, and you're like,
You're like, I don't know what happened.
there's
Yeah.
a lot going on.
It is.
Which is, by the way, why people call you, I'm sure.
Yes.
So you could read
Yes.
the book, or you could just go to CareAnswer. I love that. I know we have that on a slide someplace, but yes, you could read the book. There's a lovely slide, and you can get the book on Amazon, et cetera, and so forth. Or visit Nicole at careanswer.com. Did I get that web address right?
Yes, you did.
That's what it says. There it is, careanswer.com. There it is, the book or that. You have an option.
Yes, you have options. You have options. And I love to do presentations for people so that they can get more
Oh, I
information.
love that. So if you have
I
an
go to-
organization
Absolutely.
or a business or a
civic
group,
organization, a business. Again, as I said, 2 out of 3 people are workers are caregivers for an adult family member or adult member. So I do talks there, presentations, so people have the information that they need.
terrific. All right, we're going to have some cookies now that we're terrified, and we'll be right back after this commercial.
Thanks.
Are you interested in writing, but you're unsure how to get started? Or perhaps you're already an author, but want to hone your skills and receive supportive yet constructive feedback? Welcome to WebWritersRetreat.com. Developed to help once and future authors like you to gain from positive and supportive criticism of your submissions from other writers and our professional staff, push forward through personal timetables and writing exercise sessions. Sharpen your skills through group coaching and Q&A sessions with literary experts. Receive practical resources such as templates, downloads, links, online courses, and free ebooks. Benefit from book reviews and opportunities to join a beta team to enrich yourself as well as other authors. Save with special discounts for publishing services and online courses, social media, and email marketing, and a whole lot more. Visit WebWritersRetreat.com and turn your writing dreams into reality.
Do you have a book, either in your head or on your desk, just waiting to get out to anxious readers? Hi, I'm Stephanie Larkin, author, book developer, and head penguin at Red Penguin Books. We're a publishing company specializing in books of all genres and publishing in all formats, including digital, audible, and print books. From business books to romance, memoirs to mysteries, our authors have complete control over their books from start to print. We'll help get your book to booksellers all around. Major booksellers such as Amazon, Apple, Kobo, Walmart, even libraries and bookstores around the world. We believe in our authors, So call or email today to get your free publisher's packet to get started. Just visit us at redpenguinbooks.com and get your book out there and into the hands of your readers. At Red Penguin Books, you call all the shots. So call us today and turn your dreams into a reality.
The sun is getting warmer, but when we soar away among the clouds, the sky is just a border, but when we're floating up like helium.
Somebody.
That's the goal. Welcome back to Between the Covers. Thanks so much for joining us. Our next author, Melissa Kutch, has written a trilogy, The Hypotheses of Giants. I'm loving the way these books look. The Assumption, The Change Agent, and The Control. So please welcome Melissa. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
These are gorgeous books. And ooh, I'm only up to book 1, but I have to read the other ones now.
Oh my gosh. Well, yeah, there is going to be one more.
Oh, there's 4.
Yes, there's going to
so
be
I'm
4.
lying. It's not a trilogy. What's the word?
So the last one, the integration, I just got it out of my editor's hands
Ooh,
yesterday.
Yes, congratulations.
So hopefully by February 2020, so it'll be published and out there. So
Fantastic.
it'll be 8
Now,
years.
they're getting fatter.
Blood, sweat, and tears.
Yes.
Is the next one fatter?
It is.
Oh
It
my
is.
gosh.
But yeah,
thing.
it's a page turner. So yeah.
Oh,
so
well, certainly.
It's gonna keep you.
Certainly they are page turners. Look at that. So 4 books. What's the word for it? Quadrilogy?
I just
I do not know.
Quartet, like 4-book series. That's what I
Quartet
say.
series. Yep.
Thing?
Like music?
I think so.
I'll take it.
A
I
quartet?
think it sounds beautiful. Yeah, I'll take
No,
quartet.
it's what I remember from
That-
when I was younger. And I read a quartet of books, and I was like, okay. So I
works.
just kept that in my head.
So give us the little synopsis so that our viewers can hear what these books are about.
Sure. So it's about 2 teenagers named Aurora and Boreas. They're on this quest to help Otis, a 30-foot giant, reach the Northern Lights, but they're up against Inspector Harold, who's trying to stop them. So I call it the Harry Potter meets the Hunger Games. You got
I
the
know, I
magical
was
element,
thinking that.
you got dystopian.
I was totally
yes.
thinking Hunger Games and Harry Potter, especially.
But yeah, no, it's just been
Little
a
Game of
thrill.
Thrones in there also.
Oh, Game of
you
Thrones.
know?
Yeah, I'll take that. I'll take that. HBO listening? No.
Absolutely. Oh yeah, I could totally see the movie version in my head while I was reading.
Oh no, it's great. But yeah, no, it all started from a dream I had when
Really?
8 years ago when this all started. Like I had always wanted to write a novel. I was inspired by my 3rd grade teacher, Lisa Dorber. That's why teachers, librarians, I
Oh
can't
my
say enough
gosh.
about them. How
So you're in 3rd grade? You're a 3rd grade teacher?
my 3rd grade teacher inspired me to become a writer. We
Oh
had
my
to write a story in class, and we had to read it in front of our parents for like an author day. And it was at that moment I knew I wanted to become an author.
Oh my gosh! I hope
I
she's
actually,
watching.
yes, I
hope
dedicated
you're
the
watching.
first book to her, and I know it's just, it was. I went back to the school to tell her.
Did
it was
you?
such a thrill.
Did you sign her a copy?
I did. I did. It was just a magical moment for me to be able to go back to her and say, "You helped,
Oh my gosh!
helped me realize that at that
I am
time that's what I
sure.
wanted to be." Of course, it was not a straight and narrow path. There were a lot of bumps in the road. I tell people all the time that you're going to go into this business, like there's going to be a lot of people who are going to tell you, "Oh, don't become a writer. Get a day job. You're never going to make a living out of this." And unfortunately, I believed it. Always writing on the side, but I went to playwriting for a little while.
Oh.
I was doing some plays that were performed in New York City for the Strawberry One Act
Oh, the
Festival.
film festival. Nice.
Yes,
I
which
love
was
that.
so much fun. I love playwriting,
Oh,
but I
wow.
always still had a dream of writing the great American novel or to write a book, and I never thought I was going to be embarking on a series, but I had a dream one night that I was flying along with a giant. Very strange. You know, I don't know what I ate or drank the night before. Maybe some champagne, but yeah.
Have more.
But yeah, then the next day somebody mentioned the Aurora Borealis to me, and I said, I wonder where they came up with that name for the Northern Lights. And I did some research, and I found out that Aurora was based on the goddess of dawn, and Boreas was based on the god of the north wind. I thought, how cool would that be if we had two teenagers who develop these powers have to help some giant get to the Northern Lights, and they're up against some sort of force that's trying to stop them. And that's where the story came from. So I tell people all the time, if you never know when you're going to be inspired. If you have a dream, write it down. You never know if you're going to use it for a story one day.
Oh my gosh, you are such an inspiration to our writers out there to
thank
just do it. Absolutely. And I love their names.
And then there's a little romance in there too, so we'll see what happens with Aurora and Boreas. Yeah, keep people guessing.
Now, with a 4-book series, did you outline all of the books in advance, or did you just have your little, your initial idea and start writing, and then things just kind of took place? How did this go?
So
are you an outline or a right into the dark girl?
It's so funny because there's the two things. There's the plotter and the pantser, where the plotter plots the whole book before they even start writing, and the pantser, you just fly at the seat of your pants.
Exactly.
I definitely was a pantser.
Really?
Before this book series.
Oh, okay.
I just, whenever I was inspired, I would sit down and just write till who knows 2 o'clock in the morning, whatever the case is, just to get the ideas out there. Then I would get stuck. And I would never be able to finish the book, or I would move on to another project once that inspiration dissolved or whatever happens to it. And then for this series, though, I was a plotter and a pantser. And I tell people it is so important. I actually outlined parts of the book, and doesn't mean you have to follow that roadmap. It's not the Bible. It's not like the Holy Grail that you have to follow it and you can't change it. But I agree that you need to have some sort of outline, because then even when you have these, these spurts of inspiration where you just start writing, and you get stuck, you can always go back to that outline, and it'll help guide you back on the right path. Right. I think it's so great for any new authors out there to be able to do a little bit of both, and to not take that seed of inspiration out of you, because that's where sometimes the best writing comes from, because it really comes from within. But to still have some sort of map that, so when you do get stuck, and it happens to all authors, new and veteran authors, it at least helps you get back on track to how to write a story, especially a long series like this, where you need to be able to keep track of where you want to go with your story.
Right, and you must have certain things that a doorway opened, and you have to make sure that you address it and close it, possibly 3 books later, but all of those open hooks and such, that can get very confusing if you're just rolling them around in your head.
Absolutely. And it's so funny because I had an idea when I first was writing the story, the series for the 4th book, and it is not how it ended. It's so funny, how interesting, how things change, because as I was writing, especially the antagonist, Inspector Harold, I realized the ending for my book once I realized that, because I kept saying, he's the bad guy. He's like the, President Snow, or from the Hunger Games. He's like this bad guy out there who has created the United States of the common good. But I realized that there is more to him, and that he has a heart. So I think it's so important to look at all your characters, your good guys, your bad guys, even the ones that are, accomplices or whatever the case is to the major protagonists. There is a story, a backstory for everybody.
Absolutely. I love that you said that.
And you need to really dive deep into it and really figure out what that is.
Thank you for saying that, because, storyline is great, but if we don't love your characters or hate your characters, but we want to feel something, and your characters were definitely not one-dimensional, but people are not.
Right.
Even somebody that you absolutely despise, you might see them walking down the street, and all of a sudden they pick up a hurt bird, and you're like, really? You're with the hurt bird? and vice versa. People that you think are generally good do have a little passive-aggressive streak in them sometimes. People are very complex.
Yes.
And you addressed that, and you made us see that characters are not just a facade, one person. I'm so glad you mentioned backstory, too, because that's the way to get to that, is to really figure out, I'm sure that you know much more about these characters than you even wrote in the books. Like what Aurora was like growing up. The book starts when she's 15, but you had to think about what was her childhood like.
Absolutely.
You know, what were her parents like to her? What were some of the bad and good things that happened to her, even before she turned 15? So you know who she is, like she's sitting right there.
That's right. I tell people it's like a best friend's guide. If you're going to describe your best friend to someone, you know not just about like their physical characteristics, but you know like that time that we got in trouble at the playground or whatever the case, and we were in the 5th grade, or all these crazy backstories that happened to you, and you could describe that friendship. Not saying you're going to use everything in the book if you were going to tell a story about that person, but you do have that knowledge, and you have that wisdom that you're able to now use to tell your story.
Fantastic. Now, book 4 already went off to the editor, so then I guess I'm free to ask you, so what's next on the docket for you?
Oh, wow. So after this series, I do have a new idea for a fantasy adventure series, which I am starting to work on. So yes, so it's in the works, but yeah, I'm not going to really
No, you don't have to give it away. You don't have to give it away.
Detail for that one yet.
But we're going to keep your seat warm on the couch so
Yeah.
that you can come back with the next
Excellent.
book. Absolutely. Well, if you don't mind, I would like an autographed copy so that when you're famous and I could say, look what I have her autograph in her book.
Thank you.
We're going to have a quick commercial break, and I'm going to get an autograph of the future famous author. Welcome back to Between the Covers. I'm so excited to have author Jacqueline Gray with this amazing cover on this book for Ghost House. It's a great book, and the cover is just riveting. I can't keep my eyes off of it. So thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. I love the story. Give us a little bit of a synopsis, and then let's talk.
Ghost House is basically a fairy tale romance with a bit of a haunted house thing thrown in. It's about a college student named Andrew who goes with a bunch of friends one night to see if they can spend a night in a haunted house without getting scared out of it. And while he's there, he actually dreams about when the house was a thing. It wasn't, when it was actually running, because it was actually a bordello years ago.
Those are the best houses.
And he meets the owner of the bordello in his dream, but he's thinking it's just a dream, right? Except he keeps coming back to this dream and back to this bordello and gets to know the owner and starts falling for him. And he starts to think this is a problem because I'm either falling in love with an imaginary person or I'm going crazy. So,
Either way, not good.
Right? Either way is good. But then he also finds out that the owner of the bordello is really a sorcerer who cursed people in the past. Basically equates it to the villain of every fairy tale would probably be inspired by this person.
Yes.
This is only making the situation worse. So
With the
he
piercing
then,
eyes that he can't keep his eyes off.
Right.
he's got very pretty green eyes.
Yes.
That's Caius, is the sorcerer. So he pretty much comes to the thing of either I need to figure out, is this person real? And I want them to be real because I'm falling for them. But then if I find a way to bring them out of the dream, are they going to be the good witch or the bad witch?
Yeah,
you know? So,
Which?
so that's pretty much the first half of the story.
That's the first half of the story. You'll have to read the
I'm
rest
intrigued.
to find out where it goes from there. And your cover artist just captured.
She's amazing.
Oh, my
She showed me
gosh.
that image and I went, yes.
Oh yes,
Yes,
this
just-
is
yes, it's
just
perfect.
an amazing, amazing cover. I couldn't wait when you sent me the book and I saw the cover. I said, "What is this book about?" I had to instantly open it and find out what it was about.
Exactly.
I love the way that you refer to it as a fairy tale. You know, many people in genre fiction talk about fantasy, paranormal, romance, etc., and so forth. You don't describe this. I mean, technically, I guess it could fall into any of those categories. But
Yeah.
you describe it as fairy tale as opposed to paranormal romance.
I also originally set out to write a fairy tale,
Okay.
not specifically a retelling of anyone that we know, but using those familiar tropes.
Okay.
And as you read, you can actually find elements of Sleeping Beauty in
Yes.
there. The sorcerer is stuck in a dream. He's sleeping for 60 years, so
Right.
hence Sleeping Beauty. But there are actually inspiration that I took from The Little Mermaid in there, Rapunzel, Snow White, Beauty and the Beast, but tiny little elements. You may or may not notice them. So
Right, right.
Yeah.
It was very cool. Now, of course, the books that you brought for what you're reading are all fairy tales. So
I'm on a fairy tale kick.
has that always been your thing, or is that like a new thing?
I've always loved fairy tales, so I love fantasy. I love all different things. So, but I do come back to it. I drift all over the place, but I definitely always come back to this as well.
Right,
I've always
right.
loved fairy tales.
And so often, you know, they'll say that you should write what you know. And in a sense, I was almost anxious to see Melissa because having read the book, I was like, is she going to be like Aurora? Now, your book is mostly about men.
Yes.
So I was kind of surprised. Like, okay, she's definitely, unless you're channeling in your sleep, you know, all sorts of other people. I was almost surprised at your subject matter for you. I'm looking at
Well,
this
I've
beautiful
found-
girl.
Actually, I read a lot of gay romance,
Okay.
and I have found that quite a few of the authors of gay romance and
Right.
readers are women.
Really?
Yes.
See, now
It is
that
a
is
huge thing with
completely
women.
news to
Really?
me.
Yes.
Interesting. Wow.
Because reading it, I'm saying, she's like nailing. I mean, I'm a woman too, so maybe she is made. But I'm saying, how does she know?
I have read a lot.
I did not know that was mostly women.
Oh yeah, there's quite a huge
Interesting.
amount of female readers and writers.
I had no idea. Amazing.
Well, it kind of makes sense because you think of like some old school like romance. It was, or at least penned by men or male names, and so it's interesting. That's
Yeah,
really
well, it is
cool.
always interesting who the actual author is. Now, you know, you're not with a pen name or anything like that, and another time you might have opted for that if you thought it would help. But if gay romance has a lot of female authors, it's not like you're turning down readers with your name.
No.
You know, they're like, oh, Jacqueline's fine by me. You know?
Well, one of the books I had mentioned before, the Miles and the Magic Flute, Heidi Cullinan, that's a gay romance as well.
Right.
So yeah,
And they're
she's
fine
one of
with-
my favorite.
And they're fine with
romance
the name
authors.
Heidi. Right, yeah, because sometimes that happens. I mean, J.K. Rowling used her initials because nobody was going to take her seriously as a woman writing that genre of fiction, which is why she used her initials instead of her name. It happens all the time. There were women who were writing things and they shouldn't have been writing those things and vice versa. You have a very feminine name. I was like, wow, you're just putting that out there, aren't you? but that's actually, I'll say, a selling feature. Interesting. Interesting. But it definitely, as I said, I was anxious to meet Melissa and say, were you like Aurora? And I was anxious to meet you and saying, not really sure what she's going to be like. So you surprised me, absolutely surprised me. But the romance end of it, oh my gosh, I was like sucked right in.
Oh, I'm so glad to hear that.
Oh my gosh, sucked right in. I could feel him falling. And that's such a great thing in a romance, to actually feel someone falling in love. You know, that feeling of, not me, I'm not going there. And it's like, oh yeah, you are. Absolutely. Now, you like fairy tales, but this was a little, you know, scary too.
I love fairy tales, but I like grim fairy tales.
Gotcha. Okay.
I have definitely read the version of Cinderella where they, you know, there's blood in the shoe and stuff like that. So, you know.
I love that. I absolutely love that. Now,
So
how is
I
the
want
book
the
doing so far? Are your readers loving it? Because
It's barely been out for a month yet.
Oh my
I
gosh,
actually
we don't
really
even know.
But
We
I
don't
did,
even know.
Well, it wasn't last week. It was like the week before. I was just at a literature retreat.
Okay.
And so I got to meet a bunch of people, and I met a couple of people who had read the book, other people who heard about or saw the cover, and they were like, I'm buying it right now. They bought it in front of me.
how exciting.
The best reaction, I have to say, was one girl who I became like friendly with. She's like, I want to read it. And it was a couple of days, the retreat.
Right.
So one day she comes down and she goes, I started reading the book, but I'm only 10% into it because, you know, housekeeping came and interrupted me because we were in a hotel. I was like, that's okay. It's fine. You know? So the next day she's like, I'm only 14% into it because housekeeping interrupted me again. And I'm like, it's okay. Don't worry. And then the next thing I know, I'm hanging out in the lounge of the hotel with a couple of friends, and she comes tearing through the place, collapses next to my chair, and goes, oh my God, I loved it. And I'm like, what? She goes, I had to go upstairs to charge my phone, and while I was there, no one was in the room. So I spent the next 2 hours just devouring your book. When's the next one? And I was like, okay.
Congratulations.
So
That's awesome.
that was my favorite moment.
Oh, yeah,
That's amazing.
Oh, I love that.
And then I had another friend turn around and go, all right, that was an endorsement I can take. I'm going to go buy the book now.
Oh my gosh, that's fantastic. Now, is this your first?
No, I actually had a trilogy out.
Okay.
It was a kinky contemporary romance trilogy.
I love the sound of that.
I do. I like
I
it.
am a jack of all trades.
Yes, kinky contemporary.
Currently, though, it is not on the shelves because the publisher that had it unfortunately had to close.
Okay.
So, but it is in the hands of another publisher.
Good,
so
good.
we're hoping
So
to
Kink is
re-release it as
coming
of
back.
next year. Yes, it is.
The return.
Kinky
Right.
boots.
Yeah. That will come back, and then I'm hoping to have new things as well.
Okay, so you've done kink, you've done a little gay romance, are you going in one direction? Are you going to try something different with the next one?
Wherever my brain goes, I just follow.
Absolutely.
Like it's not attached to you.
It leads the way.
It leads the way.
Now, what gave the inspiration for this? Did you have a dream like Melissa, or what started
No,
this?
this actually, I had been reading a bunch of fairy tales, and I thought it would be cool to write a series where it was a bunch of fairy tale romances that were connected by, basically they would all have like a curse or something in them, but they were all connected by the same witch. And then have the end of the series be the witch's story.
Ooh.
The witch decided to come first. 'Cause if you read the book, you would understand Caius doesn't wait for anybody. He's like, I'm going first. So that was pretty much how that happened. But I didn't realize it was happening at first because I also had the haunted house idea.
Right.
Where I wanted somebody to go into a haunted house and maybe like fall in love with a ghost, and that would be cool, and how would that go? And suddenly the ideas merged together, and this was happening. So
Cool.
Now, are there going to be other books in this series?
I
or-
would like to visit the prequel. Well, now prequel ideas
Yes,
that
well,
I
that's
had
what I'm
initially.
wondering.
You know, there are a bunch of cursed people that are mentioned in the books.
Yes.
So I would like to explore some of their stories and have. I don't know if they'd be full
Interesting.
books or short stories. It depends on how their stories develop. But I do want to do that. And originally this was going to be in a way standalone for itself, except my beta reader turned around and said, "You're writing a sequel, right?" And I said, "I wasn't planning on it." And she goes, "You have to. Andrew's best friend, you have to write about him."
Oh, yes,
And I'm
yes.
like, why? And then she starts telling me why and giving me evidence from my own book.
From your own book.
And I went, oh, yes, I'll be writing a sequel. Thanks. So, yeah, I want to do that as well.
Well, I'll say to you what I said to Melissa, and when that book comes out, we'll keep your spot on the couch so that we can launch your next book right here on the show. We've had guests on twice. We had one on 3 times. Very prolific. So we definitely want you on, whether it's the sequel, the prequel, or more kinky romance, or whatever it might be.
I can do that too.
Whatever you do, we are right there with it. Absolutely love it. I would love an autograph, and I know some people that I'm going to push this on to so that they can become raving fans. I hope you don't mind. We're going to take a quick commercial break, and we'll be right back. Welcome back to Between the Covers. Thanks so much for joining us. We're so thrilled to have our authors here today, and we're hoping that you are inspired to write and to read. Now, after you read, if you have some books left over, we are huge advocates of the Book Fairies. The Book Fairies are right here on Long Island and collect over 50,000 books every single month to distribute to people in need. They can be children's books, they can be adult books, test prep books, whatever you happen to have. The Book Fairies is more than thrilled to redistribute your books. I was almost horrified to hear that they open their doors one Saturday every month for teachers here on Long Island to just drive up in a van and take as many books as they want because school libraries and classrooms don't have enough funds for books. So if you have books to donate to the Book Fairies, you can go visit thebookfairies.org and see when they're available, or come here on any Wednesday night that we're filming. We'll pour you a glass of wine or champagne if we are toasting a new author. Drop off some books. I would be thrilled to drive them down. They're used to me coming down like every Thursday with a car full of books. So thebookfairies.org. Let's make sure we know where to find our authors because, God, we want to read every one of them. Nicole, remind us all where we can find your book and where we can find you when we're terrified reading your book.
Well, you can find the book on Amazon, and I'll be doing some presentations and speaking engagements, so you can find them with me when I'm there. As well as you can find me at careanswered.com, or you can give me a call at 516-584-2007 for Care Answered.
Fantastic. Melissa, how about you? Where can we find you and your books?
You can find my books on Amazon as well, and also on my website, www.melissakutch.com. And you can also see where I'm going to be next on social media at Melissa Kutch Author. And you can find me on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter.
Oh, yes. We want to go to all those events that you're doing. Let's do it.
I can't wait to see you guys there.
Absolutely. And Jack, where can we find you?
My books are also on Amazon. They're in,
and the rest will be there soon.
They're also on like Barnes & Noble, Smashwords, Kobo, all the retailers and everything. Or you can also find them on my website, jacquelinegray.com. And you can also find me there or through Facebook, Twitter. It's pretty much the main two places.
Fantastic. Let's get you some more raving fans for all three of you. Well, I'm so thrilled that you were joining us today. As I said, read a book, write a book, and thank you for joining us on Between the Covers.